Hi, I'm Belinda and welcome to Belinda's Baubles episode 23. Today is, I had to look at my computer here. Today is February 23rd, 2025, and we are in the middle or towards just past the middle of the topping out mal, which I am doing with Mandy with Mouse's Makes. If you're wanting information about the make along, please do check out the video I have attached to this channel and just come along. It's still going on and we've got some great prizes coming up at the end of March for it. So also with that video or with that make along, you do need to watch both mine and Mandy's videos for if you're participating for the drawings, because they can happen at any time and on either channel. And the person who I drew for in January, I still have not heard from. So if you are participating and you haven't watched episode 22, then go back and watch it. It may be you. All right. So any way to get a hold of me or to find me is down below in the description box, and welcome to some new viewers. I am excited because I am this close to 500 subscribers. It keeps teetering back and forth between 498 and 499 subscribers, and I am coming up in April, I guess it is. Yeah, in April. On my 2-year podiversary. So I'm excited about how this channel is developing and how we've come along, and I am so thankful for all of you that watch. If you're deciding whether or not to subscribe or not, please do. It doesn't cost you anything and it helps my channel growth. All right, so sit back, relax, get your knitting or crocheting out, your crafting, and if you can hear planes, I don't know if this is going to come over the microphone or not. I apologize. I've been waiting all morning for the air traffic to die down, and it's not. Apparently, there are maneuvers in the area because I can hear fighter jets basically outside my window. We're between two or three different airports. Okay, I figure there's no way you couldn't have heard that because that one was loud. All right, so we're just going to kind of make our way through because life, of course, is always up in the air with me, and there's so much I want to cover. So like I said, get your tea, your coffee, your iced drink, whatever you're drinking, your wine if you're drinking that. You're knitting, crocheting, and settle in. This is going to be a long one. In fact, I don't know if this is going to be one video or two. I started getting everything together to be able to talk to you guys, and I'm like, okay, so I need this, I need this, I need this. And I've been doing this for days. And even today, I started listing things, and I tripped over a project bag, and I'm like, what's in there? Oh, yeah, I need to list that one too. I hadn't even put it in Ravelry. So I may have cast a few things on this last month. Now I got quite a bit done with the topping out mal in January. I still got one more thing done in February that I finished that goes towards the topping out mal. So I'm doing pretty good with that. I may have replaced that many projects with more, but I did finish several of them too. So it's been a month. I also attended a one-day part to a knitting retreat. And I've never gone to a knitting retreat. So this was the Knitty McPurly Knitting Retreat. And I'm going to talk to you about that at the end of the video because I just did a one day because it was here locally. And it was interesting. So we'll talk, and I've also got my goodie bag down here so I can share that with you. Like I said, there is so much. All right, so I've got my computer here, So when I'm looking over, that's what's going on. And I've got a pile of things here to talk to you about. And let's just get moving. All right, so the first thing I want to go over is what I'm wearing. This is my favorite pullover. It's a crocheted cardigan, it's a crocheted pullover or sweater. It's by Katy Petersen. It is a paid-for pattern, but it's like if you buy the adult and child in her ebook, it's $2. Or you can buy the pattern on its own for $4 US. I made this back in 2019, and it is with Hobby Lobby's I Love That Cotton yarn. And I don't remember the colors or anything. It has a ribbed around the waist, the rib sleeves that are contrast as well. And then the neck is supposed to have a tie in it. I like the way this looked just on its own. It's all one piece and knit from or crocheted from the top down. No seaming at all. And I want to make another one. It's done with a double herringbone stitch, which gives this great texture. And I just love it. Now, when I made this, I made it in cotton because I hadn't really found superwash wool at that point. At that point, I wasn't even knitting yet. And I was just crocheting. And I had not developed, I was working with bamboos, cottons, acrylics, and I had not delved into superwash wool. I did not even realize that, superwash wool was pulling all the lanolin out. And to my knowledge, at that point, I was allergic to wool. So I tested myself on superwash wool. And I can work with superwash wool, no issues whatsoever. When I get into commercial non-superwash wools, my palms start turning red, I start itching, my eyes water up, especially if I have any kind of a fan on me or anything, and if things start blowing towards me. And I just figured other people had said, oh, you must be allergic to lanolin. So I was like, okay, I'm allergic to wool. I have to stay away from it. I'll work with superwash wool, not non-superwash wool. Anytime I would touch something that my brother Bill was making with commercial wool, within a few minutes, the itching would start. And I knew that if I didn't get away from it at that point, the nose would go, the sneezing would start, all that, all the normal allergies. But when I went to, what was it? The Shenandoah Valley Fiber Festival. I went to it in September of 2024, just last year in Virginia. I spoke with a lady who was telling me that what they were really looking into was whether or not some of these allergies to non-superwash wool had to do with the chemicals. Because to make wool yarn, the easiest way to get it cleaned out and get it prepped is using chemicals. And the most cost-effective way is to use chemicals. Well, some of the smaller farms are going to a more natural way. And so she talked me into at least trying this out. So I bought 2 skeins of her yarn. I'll tell you more about it when I get to my finished objects. But I'm in the process of putting together a video that I'm exploring whether or not I'm actually allergic. Just me personally, it may not be everybody, but it could be quite a few of us that believe we're allergic to wool. It may or may not be actually wool or lanolin. It may be the chemicals that are used to process that yarn. So I'm exploring this for myself, and hopefully it may help others. But what I have done is I used one of the skeins of her yarn, and I made a couple of items. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about them in a bit when I get into my finished objects. But I found I had a slight reaction, but not much. It was My brother Bill mentioned, you know, my reaction may be like what some people think of their reaction is to Let Lopey. You know, it's a little bit scratchier on me. It gives me a little, you know, at first I was getting quite red from it, but that went away. So I am testing out Small Farm non-superwash wools, Eco non-superwash wools, which are being developed or being sold by, I think it's Knit Picks. Yeah, Knit Picks. I got theirs. I've gotten another Small Farm wool from here in Texas. And then Bill has given me some just standard commercial non-superwash wool, wool of the Andes. And so I'm going to use it. So I'm doing small projects with each of these things just to see what my reaction is and see what is possible. So when I do get that video out, I'm going to go through the different ways that that the wool is being processed, the differences between them and everything, and what the differences are between my reaction. So that's coming up sometime this year. Not sure when, because this is a little bit of a longer project for me. So that's why this is in cotton. Round and round and round. That's why I made this in cotton. I want to go back and make this same sweater in non-superwash wool because it'll be nice and stretchy and cozy, because I do love this. So all of that to get one thing out. I know. So this is why I'm thinking this may be a long video. Okay, so after that, let's go on into my finished objects. Okay, first thing I have is the Timbo vest. This is by Gabriella Calderini. It is a free pattern. It used to be a paid for pattern. And I'm not wearing it because it ended up being quite large on me. And I do want to talk about this. Okay, let me pull my sheet up here on this particular item. Because I made some notes on Ravelry. So you can always go back and check out my Ravelry page that has the information on it. Now the Timbo vest calls for quite a bit of ease. So I looked at her different sizes, and the amount of ease that would give me what she was calling for was for me to make the 3XL. Now the sizes on this pattern. Okay, so whenever you pull up the Timbo vest, it talks about it only going from extra small to extra large. Well, that's when it was a paid for pattern. She's now made it free. She's added additional sizes, but I don't think she has had the additional sizes tested. She just did the math and added them on. And so there's some errors in there. It's got an easy broken rib stitch, and it's worked from the top down, and it has a little bit of a saddle shoulder, which I'd not done a saddle shoulder before, and I really do like the look of it. I did make the neckline a bit bigger than what it called for, and that was one of the reasons I went over to the 3XL, but it uses bulky yarn, and I mean, this is bulky yarn. It's like 109 yards to 100 grams. And so the only thing I could find whenever I decided I wanted to make this at On the Lamb that matched up to that was, I have my stuff here somewhere. Here we are. Juniper Moon Farm Bud. So this is 109 yards to 100 grams. It is a number 5 bulky. It's 100% cotton. And yeah, cotton does stretch more, but even before it started stretching, it was already stretching. And this is organic Peruvian cotton. The colors on here are color 111 and 144. So a gold and a purple. And I really do like the texture on it. I chose to go under the arms to make my break. And I'll put a picture here of me wearing it. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, it's a bit too big for me. And I should have just stuck with the size. Yeah, I usually do an extra large, like a 1XL to a 2XL at the most. And I should have just stuck with that. But I was trying to follow along. I even got gauge and everything. And it just did not work out. So I'm probably going to give this to someone else, or I may try washing it since it's cotton and throwing it in the dryer. It may shrink up. I may end up giving it to someone who's smaller. I don't know. So let's see. Sorry. I'm trying to back it back out to my notes. Okay, so the amount of yarn that she calls for was almost double what I actually needed. And so I have enough yarn probably to make an entire other one of these with what I've already spent. So that's why I'm thinking I'm probably going to do that. So what I actually ended up using is the sunflower yellow. I used 2.5 skeins. And then in the lupine purple, I used 2.75 skeins. So 272.5 yards and 299.8 yards whenever I figured out what I had actually used. So that's what was actually used. So she's added for the free pattern these 3 larger sizes. And I've put in my notes here, which I sent this on to her, that in the setup rows, there were some mistakes in the 3XL. So I did make those notes on my page if you're interested in it. I did the collar first round and the shoulder and yoke setup as far as what actually worked. And she calls for this to be knit the front panel, the back panel, and then seam down the side. I'm not going to do that. You know me, I prefer to knit in the round if I can. So, and especially with the bulky yarn and the big needles, because I was using, what was I using? Good thing I have my notes here. I was using a 6.5 millimeter US 10.5 needle to make this. So it was kind of rough on my hands because I was also coming off from having to wear that something on my wrist and everything when I was having trouble with my thumb. So it was still kind of on the sore side. So I did follow along until I got down here. So whenever I got to the bottom and I was ready to add under the sleeves or under the arm, I just figured out, you know, how to do the stitch in the round. And I just added, you know, I added fewer stitches underneath than what she called for what she was adding on. So that's what I ended up doing. It's a soft, comfy, warm. For it being cotton, it's actually very warm. And I do love this, and I do want one that's just a bit smaller. It's not bad, and I'm glad I made it. I'd never done something in the broken rib, and I'm trying this year. Most of my knit projects, you know, they are me. We all do stuff that really talks to us, but mine are very, in some ways they're very chaotic because I use lots of colors. I use lots of prints. I just have a lot of fun with it. But I need some basics pieces too to add into my wardrobe. And so this year I'm kind of concentrating. I still have some loud and crazy ones, but I'm also putting more basic items, things that are going to be more solid color than what I usually do. And so that was kind of the start to this, was doing that. But we'll see what happens next. All right. So the next thing I have on my list here is the nest cowl. Put this away. Pull my information up here. I'm sorry I'm going back and forth like this week. It's just where I am at the moment. I didn't even get my sheet printed up. There was issues with the printer last night, so I was just like, nope, I'm going ahead and getting this done. Okay. So this is the nest cowl. I've been wearing it a lot. By Tin Can Knits. And what they have to say on here, this is the adult version. It is a paid for pattern. And it is reversible cables. And they're like, reversible cables are not any more difficult to make than regular cables. And they were right. So I don't want to go against, they've got it for instructions in here for 3 different weights of yarn. This was DK, but they also have worsted and chunky weight. And they give your gauges and your needles and everything for all of that before you even buy the pattern. And like I said, there's the child size, toddler size, child size, and adult size. And I have found I really like something that comes right up against my neck like this does. Now, I did not do the stitch the same way they did as far as the body of this. Because if I'm going to have a reversible cowl, I don't want it to look the same on both sides, which is the way that they had it. Now I've done rib at the top and the bottom. They do increase it a little bit for the bottom for it to bell out a little bit. But you can see how well the cables turned out on here. But I did this with stockinette. This is actually the front. And I like both. I probably like the purl side better. Just because the cables stand out even more. But I wanted it to have 2 different textures. So it's got the purl side and the garter, or the garter side and the knit side, or whatever you want. My words aren't going to be there today. So gives you a good look there. Okay. So I wanted it to look totally different on both sides so that I flip it back and forth, whatever I feel like. And I have been wearing this. We had a cold front that came in off and on for 2 weeks, and it's been below freezing. It's been down into the teens and single digits here in Texas. And during the daytime, some days it got up to 17 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit, which is cold for us. So I've been wearing this at work quite a bit. There's been some days I didn't take it off from the time I put it on in the morning to the time I took it off at night. And so I do love this. And guess what yarn this was made with? This is made with Isling Yarns. It is non-superwash BFL DK American Small Farms wool. It is in DK, and it's in the 2024 Natural Pale Gray. It's natural and undyed, and they use eco methods, non-chemical or low chemical ways to make their yarn. And this is who I found. This is who I found at the Fiber Festival in Virginia. I did a twisted rib for the top and the bottom. And so I did, instead of garter stitch is what it calls for, instead of garter stitch, I did knit stitch so that I could have the reverse. Okay. And how long did I spend on this? Let me look at my dates here. Okay. So I started this on the 28th of January, right after I talked to you guys probably. And I completed it on the 31st. Working on it off and on. It is a quick project. And it is so soft. I keep touching it. Okay, so Nest Cow by Tin Can Knits. I do recommend it. It is a fun project. And I am probably going to make another one. So, what is next? Next up are the Hearts on Fire beanie. ×2. So, this was my Valentine's kind of cast on. And let me get my project page up here. After making this, I still had some yarn left over for my one skein. So, I decided to make something to match it. So this adult version here uses the Isling Yarn BFL and Cascade Yarns Heritage 6. And this is highlighter pink for the color. And this pom-pom is one that I got from for Christmas from Sam, that he got from on the Lamb Yarn Shop. So I used 116 yards of the highlighter pink in all of this. And then only 20 grams or 49 yards, which is what I had left of the Isling yarns. So it does not take much yarn at all to make this. Now I didn't, the pattern actually calls, which I did this one to pattern. This one is this is the baby version. And this is a gift that I've made. It calls for the ribbing to be doubled over. So I did do the doubled over on this one. I did not do it for mine. You can kind of see the differences there as far as the adult has some extra hearts down here. And then of course there's more hearts going around to make than the baby one. But it was a fun project. Now on the baby version, the yarns that I use, let me get that one. And this took me, in the evenings, 3 days. So in a week and a half, I had 2 hats. So I've been going through several quick projects. So this is Cascade Yarn Anthem. Now this is an acrylic yarn, and I wanted something that was easy care for sending it on for a baby. Colorway is pink 09 and number 14, which is cream. And then I just got a little pom-pom. I got me a whole big bag of small pom-poms. You can tell it's smaller. Small pom-poms in a whole bunch of different colors from Amazon. And just to be able to add to some gift knits. It just has the little loop, whereas this one here, it has the snap. So I had to sew the snap on the top, and then it just snaps on for washing. This one, I need to get a different ribbon. I just grabbed something I had in the house. It has the little loop, and I tied a ribbon on it to be able to go on the baby's head. But I'm going to get a different soft ribbon so that she can take the pom-pom off for washing. Okay. Now my color work isn't great. You know, it's kind of bunchy and everything, but it's still fun. And with this one, with the hearts, okay, coming through this area here with these long floats that I was catching, I made it too tight. So luckily, here, let me show you on me. It fits still. I just can't pull it down real low. When I get it over the bottoms of my ears, and then it starts pulling itself back up. But it does the job. I love it. I especially love my pom-pom. So I tried to make it this time to where when I was catching my floats and everything, I wasn't making it too tight. It still stretches out a bit. And she should be able to get maybe a little wear this year, but I'm expecting this to be more for, the baby was born in December. So I'm expecting this to be more something for next year for her. So that is what? 1, 2, 3, 4 that I have finished so far. Oh, let's go back and see what else I have over here. Okay, since I didn't get a baby blanket done, which is what I was originally planning on for this great niece, I figured, you know, a couple of hats. The baby's up in Alaska, so this would be some. I'd do a couple of hats because for their weather, there it is. For their weather, they're going to be wearing hats for, you know, probably into May of some sort or another. So I made her a bonnet. This is the Beloved by Tin Can Knits. The pattern goes from newborn to adult, all in the one pattern. It is a paid for pattern, and I did the baby one. Now, whenever I hung this out to dry, and I hung it up like this, so now all of a sudden it's got a point in the back it's not supposed to have, so I've got to re-wet that and kind of work its way in. It does have a point at the top. And this is the way it would be worn. And this is addictive. Someone mentioned it to me at the knitting retreat. She had just finished making 2 as baby gifts. And then I ended up doing with Karma's and Stitch had it was a knitting bingo virtual online. And so I signed up for it, and I ended up winning 2 patterns. So one of the ones that I asked for was the Beloved, because I had been looking at it. And I'm like, okay, this should, you know, I can get this done within a week. You know, it shouldn't be too big of a deal or anything. It sounded interesting, and I'll tell you what I can about the construction without giving away too much, since it is a paid-for pattern. But what you can kind of see and what got my attention and got me to go buy it or to get it gifted to me. It only uses, I mean, this was DK yarn. It's US 6 4mm, and I used Madeline Tosh Farm Twist for the yarn. And the colorway here is Ladybird. This was a custom colorway for Juju Knits, and the Ladybird refers to Ladybird Johnson, one of our first president's wives, and she was a Texan, and she really put forth the Texas wildflowers and had them planted along the roadside. We still have them along the roadside in a lot of areas, just depending on construction. And that's where we got a lot of our blue bonnets along our roads, as well as others. So that's what this represents. And blue bonnets are a form of a lupine, from what I understand. And Alaska has these huge purple lupines. So this is going to Alaska. So this is kind of tie together the Texas and Alaska theme together. But it's thin enough to where it can be more of a spring bonnet. Now, the way that this is constructed and what got me is there are only 2 places to weave your ends in. Right there. You start by casting on an I-cord, which I had done I-cord edges, but I had never actually done an I-cord. These are somewhat addictive. So you start with your I-cord, then you go up, then you do your increases. And you've got an I-cord edging all along here, all built in. Now you go, you do your increases, and then you come back and you end with the I-cord. So the only place is you're weaving that little cord up through the I-cord, and it's done. This thing is so addictive. Sorry. My nose is just itching today. I started on it last Sunday. I almost got it done. In fact, well, it was about 1 in the morning before I went to bed because I was just so close and I was having so much fun with it. I wanted to finish it. And of course, you know, for someone who wasn't watching TV the whole time, I probably would have gotten it done in one day anyways. But I was probably to right here by the time I finished. So the next evening, I just finished this part and that, and it was done. So this is a quick baby gift, and it only used just over 29 yards. So you're talking 13 grams. So you could take a 20-gram mini, no problem, and make this. So I have these 2 ready to go. And I've thought about, I even talked to my brother Bill about it, but I thought about making an adult version for whenever it gets really cold to be able to just have something over my ears. I don't know. I don't know that I'm ready to, if I'm old enough to wear a baby bonnet as an adult. But I definitely do recommend this pattern. Okay, so that's the end of my finished objects. But I'm going to show you one more. This one is not mine. I told y'all a little bit about the tam that my brother Bill made for our stepmom, Donna. This is not it. He sent me one and made me one. And let me get my notes on it. So, I've got it down at the bottom, my Inspired by Bill section. Okay, this is the Summer Lake Tam, same as the other one, by Janine Bajus, B-A-J-U-S. And instead of using non-superwash wool, which is what he had used for the other one, he used Knit Picks Brava Sport. So this one is just slightly larger because of that, because it's not a DK. It is a sport weight. And look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? Now she has the summer, fall, winter, and spring versions of this hat. And it is a comfy hat. Now, because it being sport too, it's a little bit large, but I like the fact that it's not tight around here. It comes just over my ears. And it's just, it is fun to wear. Now, I haven't done anything quite this detailed. Well, I guess to a degree I have with my gloves, but I just love the way it goes around. He actually used a plate when it came time to block it because basically it is a plate. All right, so this is your hat rendition as far as for finished objects and everything. It's mostly hats. Let me bring her back in here a little bit, get her set back up. Okay. All right, so that is it. And I've been here a while with you guys for my finished objects. Okay, this is future me, so I'm going to jump in right here and we're going to cut this video. If you're wanting to continue on with me, I will have in episode 24 all of the under construction, in the works, and the recap from the Knitty McPurly retreat that I went to for that one day. It's just too long of a video for me to keep it all together, and I think you guys need a little bit of a break from me. So I will see you real soon.